Hello. I have some new inky brush pen toys. It's trying out a few different brands to see if any of them had the qualities that I was looking for. I have so many brush pens right now. There's one in particular that I really liked in the past that I was using, and it was this one. It has no brand name on it. Anyway, I had this and I really like how it's a little bit more dry. Like some of these brush pens are super juicy like this, and they're very opaque, which is good for some purposes. But I like to use these brush pens to do this kind of shading, and I can only do that when I have more moisture control over how much ink gets down to the brush tip. And see, this is the same brand actually, but the newer one was just much more liquidy. And so I've been on a search ever since then to try to find something else I can use, because I really enjoy working that way, and I can't do it if I don't have control over how much liquid gets down to the tip of the brush. Now this one, I like the point. I really like how fine this one is. It's so much more fine than I can get even with an actual fine tip well, fountain pen nib at least. I think like nib I can get this fineness. This is an extra fine nib. Juicy pens are sometimes dangerous, says Daniela. How so? But the ones that I really like are these. So these, okay, I like them, but they're still not quite the same as this one, this elusive one, this old one that is running out of ink. And unfortunately, since it's a disposable pen, I can't refill it. I've looked to try to see if there's some way I could disassemble it, but not happening. So my second best choice are these Pentel art brushes, because the way these work, these are also disposable, and you squeeze this back bulby part, this black section over here. This part is actually a replaceable thing, because you can buy them separately. I'm not going to untwist it right now because sometimes the ink spurts out, but the back end of this is a replaceable part, and then the tip is a nylon synthetic brush pen tip. And I do get some liquid control over these as well. See, I can get my shading technique with this. It's not as reliable as that other pen, because if I squeeze the ink down, then it can get really thick and juicy. But then if it gets too thick, then what I do, like this one's actually in a good state also. Let me find one that's, yeah, this one is super liquidy right now. So if it gets like that and I want to just get it more dry, I'll just go like this for a while and use up some of the ink until it gets to a more dry state that I can work with. But this was one that I just bought. So I like the black. I like this art brush. This is a Pentel art brush. And it's a pretty thick brush tip. I got this finer one now. This gray one here on the left. It is also Pentel. It's a Pentel pigment ink brush, extra fine. So it's about half the thickness of the big one. And I've just started using it a little bit, and I've been enjoying it. So I just squeezed the bulb a tiny bit when I first opened it up and just got the ink to flow a little, and then turned it upside down to make sure that not too much went down to the tip. And so I've got it to the dryness that I enjoy working with. Muslim Family Tradition says, love the tree you made for Peter Pauper Press calendar. Thank you. Yeah, that's actually one of my older pieces, but it's still one of my longtime favorites. I always think about revisiting that theme, but I can't. I don't want to just recreate it. I want to do something new with it, but it's been something that's been on my mind a lot because I like that piece. All right, so the other thing I wanted to play around with today, there's all those pens, but what I'm doing with all this is I'm gearing up for my Undying Tales that I'm going to be doing in October. And that is my ink project where I do a ink drawing each day for the 31 days of October. And they all feature endangered animals as well as the mythology stories that go along with these creatures. And so it's a lot of work to do those 31 drawings. Plus, I actually do more than 31 because I end up doing lots of little bonus pieces. And so in preparation for that, I wanted to get ready with all my ink and stuff. And I wanted to mix some of these colors. So this one is, let's see, where's my brush? This is a gray color, and I like it, but it's a little bit too dark for what I want to do with it. I actually want a really pale gray, and so I was going to do some mixtures, and I think I wanted, let's see, I wrote down what I did last year. So the ratio I did was 2 to 1.5 of ink to distilled water. And the reason you use distilled water is because tap water it has fluoride, it has particles of like minerals and other stuff that can interfere with the ink and cause the ink to separate and do stuff. So I have this jug of distilled water that I use for this purpose. And I'm going to start. So I'm just mixing up these little 5 milliliter containers to have this on hand when I start doing all my inking later next month. This is distilled water, and I'm going to fill it up to the 2 milliliter mark here. Actually, I'm going to try doing like a 50-50 ratio to see how I like that. I think last year I did 2 to 1, but I want to actually try mixing. I want it to be a little bit more blue. So this is the ink, and I have a warm gray that I like also, which is a J. Herbine. And this one is J. Herbine Bleu de Profondeur. Ooh, that's a very dark blue. I'm thinking just like a drop or two of this mixed in with the other two. So let's see. Do I have an eyedropper somewhere? Actually, I think I'll mix the gray in first, and then I'll do the blue as the last element. So move those aside so I don't accidentally knock something. All right, so I'm filling this up to the 4 mark. And then let's test out what that color looks like now. I like to have my grays really pale because even though it looks light over there compared to, black, when I start to do really thin lines with, say, a nib pen like this, the lightness is not as obvious there, and it looks actually pretty close to the black. So I want to dilute it down to something where I can really see the difference between the blue and the black when I use them. Oh, sorry, not the blue and the black, the gray and the black. So this is my mixture now, my 2-to-1 mixture. Just gonna see how that is. That does not look a whole lot paler yet. So I'm gonna add some more water. I'm gonna add this up to 5. Where's the lid? There's the lid. It's right in front of me and I didn't see it. All right. Mix that up. Now let's see how this is. It's still fairly dark. I am going to take half of this and get some more water. So now at this point, I think I'm over to a 2-to-1 ratio, but in the water's favor. All right, that's noticeably lighter now. Let's mix that up good. Yeah, okay. That now you can see is much lighter than the original. And then I want to add a tiny little bit of the bleu de profondeur. Hopefully that doesn't make it too dark because this stuff does look a lot more intense. Let's stir that up. And give it a test. Okay, that is the gray that I like now. So what I'm aiming for is a cool gray because I have a warm gray which is already existing in, oops, not that brush. The warm gray I have already exists in this form, straight out of the bottle, which is the J. Urbine Gris Nuage. I think that's like storm cloud gray, but it's sort of a purpley warm gray. And I wanted something that was more on the cool end of the spectrum. So this will be my cool bluish gray. So it's that. So that would be like the equivalent of a Payne's gray versus the, what is it that I like to use in my watercolors all the time? I always forget the name. Bloodstone. See, I have these three grays that I use. I have the neutral tint, I have the Payne's gray, and I have the Bloodstone. So I think I'm going to mix up a little bit more of this because I'm going to need more of it. Some more of that, and then some more water. Yeah, there's my cool gray. Yay. Okay, what was the next one I wanted to do? I also have a gold that I want to similarly dilute. I'm not going to be mixing this one with any other colors. This one is called Inaho, and it is Iro Shizuku Pilot brand. So just to see, this is what it looks like straight out of the bottle. It's this, oh yeah, it's this very gorgeous golden brown yellow. But once again, I want it to be more diluted so that I can use it as sort of a background color when I am going to be inking and doing like shading stuff on top of it. Well, I can't do it there, but just to show you, you know, I have like the base pale color, and then I like to do this sort of stuff on top of it, you know, shading and coloring and rendering stuff over that base flat tone. So I'm going to start off with a 1-to-1 ratio as well for this. Filling up my little vial halfway. And then I need to get another dropper for this one. Actually, I bet I could pour it straight into here. And then mix that up. Let's see if that's dilute enough for my needs. Yeah, that's good. You see how much lighter that is now than the original? But still has that golden tones. Actually, I'm going to pour a little bit more of the ink into there. And get it to a full 1-to-1, because that was more like a little bit in the water's favor still. And I want to fill up a fountain pen now with this. This is so it's got a converter which lets me fill up this fountain brush pen with whatever colors I want. So I'm going to fill it up with this stuff that I just mixed. And I just insert it in there, and I twist this, and that pulls the ink up into the brush. And I'm going to label this also so that I remember last year I didn't label any of these, and I just completely would forget all the ratios that I did. So this one is 1-to-1 Inaho and water. And then I just clean off my brush like that. So here's what I like to do. I like to have this base of the ink, the colored ink like that. And then let's let that dry for a little bit while I fill up my other pen with the blue mixture that we made earlier. So this one is going to be filled up by another brush fountain pen. And while that's drying there, let's do this, and then I'll go back to that. This is a Kuretake, I believe. And this one I filled up with my very pale bluish gray mixture. Okay, is that dry over there? No, that's not. Well, while we're waiting for that to dry, let's fill up one last pen. This one I also want to have with my bluish gray. And this is sort of a flexible nib fountain pen. So this one's not a brush tip. So, you know, see, this is like a nice, really pale bluish gray. And that is going to be great for drawing less foreground grabbing details. So I like to have these alternate colors to use in my ink drawings to where I can use them to draw some pretty fine detailed stuff, but not have it clash and grab for attention with the foreground stuff. Okay, so now that I have some of those things all mixed up, just playing around a little bit here. This was the yellowish mixture that I made, and this is that new Pentel brush pen that I wanted to give a shot. So I did the yellowish toned, the golden tone underneath. It's just this base layer, and then on top of it then I can draw with my line work. Because this is all water-soluble stuff. It's not waterproof. I can't go the other direction. I can't do my lines first and then the pale colored ink on top, because that would just cause everything to start to run. Yeah, so I think I actually do really like this extra fine Pentel brush pen. It's letting me get that dry-ish tip that allows me to shade. But it also has this very fine point to it, so I can get lots of good detail in. That's why I love brush pens, because they have such versatility. You can get this super fine detail with the tips of them, but then you can also get this kind of shading, and if the brush is more wet, you can get very black, dark, thick lines. So it's just really versatile. Let's see, where's the blue that I had set up over here? Sorry, the bluish gray. This is a fountain pen, but it's got a flexible nib to it, which is more natural to me for drawing. I don't really like the stiff, nibbed fountain pens. And, you know, a fountain pen isn't even really necessary for this. You can just get a $1 nib, which I also have. I also use those. Where is mine? Here, this guy. Just dipping that and using that instead. But I like how the fountain pens feel. Also, I'm super messy with dip pens. I'm always dripping my ink everywhere. I end up with splotches all over my page. And then I have to figure out what to do with those splotches, what to turn them into. Little feathery bits here. Anyway, that's it for today. Just a little doodle here. Thanks for joining me.